So I'm in Tacoma, Washington, which is one of the more dangerous cities in the state of Washington. This city has a population around 225,000, and it's rising steadily, which probably isn't helping the crime they have get any better. It's 55% white, 14% Hispanic, 9% Asian, and 9% black. So it's pretty diverse as far as cities go. The average income here is around $56,000 a year, which is on the high side. They have a 12% poverty rate, which is kind of typical. It sounds like a lot, but it's fairly typical number for a city to have, any like larger city to have at least a 12% poverty rate. But the violent crime here is 242% higher than the national average. 242% higher. In Chicago, their number fluctuates, but last year I believe it was around 125 or something in Chicago, and that's partly due to Chicago having such a high population that they can absorb a lot of the violent crime that they have and still have relatively low numbers when you base it on a per 100,000 person basis. But the population here at 225,000, and the amount of violent crimes they have put it at their violent crime rate at 242% higher than the national average. The property crime isn't much better. That's 284% higher. These aren't super bad numbers like you would see in like Detroit or something, but for a state like Washington, these are really bad numbers. That's a really high crime numbers. The murders they had here from 2010 to 2019, they had between 10 and 17 a year. In 2020, that number jumped up to 29. So they pretty much doubled from their average. They doubled it in 2020, the Summer of Floyd and Summer of Love and all that stuff. 2021, the murders jumped to 32. 2022, they jumped to 45. And that's the peak they had in the last few years, like in the last 10 years. That's the peak. 45 in 2022. So that's basically triple what it was pre-2020. 2023, they brought it back down to 34, and 2024, they got it back down to 22, which is still, it's lower than the post-2020. It's the lowest number in that range, but it's still much higher than what they had, you know, prior to 2020. Their murder rate peaked at 19 in 2022. Okay, that's when they had the 45 murders. Now, the murder rate is based on your population, not on the total number. Murder rate of 19, that's about Minneapolis, Minnesota level. And again, to compare Chicago, because that's the city everybody seems to look at as the bad guy, Chicago's murder rate is fairly consistently all right around 22 every year. So their murder rate is, in 2022, in Tacoma, Washington, was just slightly lower than that of Chicago. And again, like I said, it's pretty much the same as what you would see in Minneapolis. And then in 2024, it dropped down to 9.7. Pre-pandemic, it was under 8 every year. So, sorry, I just had to get over, and this guy behind me he wants to pass, so I was trying to get out of his way. A murder rate of 9.7, which they registered in 2024, that's pretty much what I would call regular city bad. Right around 10 is regular city bad, and within a few either way of that is just, it's what you're going to expect to see in a city. Because there's just a certain level of crime when you live city limits. there's a certain level of crime you just come to expect, right or wrong. I mean, you should expect no crime. You should expect to be able to live safely, but that is just not the case. And so as of last year, 2024, they're, you know, right in that regular city bad level. Their arson rates rose more than any other crime, going from 62 to 90 before the pandemic each year to 243 in each of 2021 and 2022. From 62 to 90 in that range prior to 2020, up to 243. That's like tripling, depending on where you fall in that range. You'd go with an average of that range. Your odds of becoming a victim of a crime here are 1 in 12, which is the really, really, really bad cities will be 1 in 9 or 1 in 10. The really, really, really bad cities will be 1 in 9 and 1 in 10. So this is barely above that. A regular U.S. city, your odds would range probably from 114, 115 to 1 in 20. So it's, your odds of becoming a victim of a crime here are much higher than they are in a lot of U.S. cities that a person would consider to be bad. I mean, not this, and like I said, it's not horrible, but it's pretty bad here. They are, however, showing a decrease in crime of 15%. So if they can keep that up for a few years, they can get things at least back within a couple years. They can get things at least back to where it was pre-2020. And if they can even stick at that level, the pre-2020 level, the city won't be that bad. Because prior to 2020, it was not something, that guy looks like, I don't know if you caught that guy sitting on the bench there, but he was on something. He looked almost like a statue. Pre-2020, I'm not going to say the crime was good, but it was at or slightly below regular city levels. So not necessarily good, but definitely for city, not necessarily bad either. So they have their officers that they have in Tacoma. They have 1.9 per every 1,000 people. The Washington average is 2.2 per 1,000 people, and the national average is 3.3 per 1,000 people. So they have less than the Washington average as far as having police officers, and far less than the national average, which would explain a lot of the crime getting as bad as it did. They probably likely lost a lot of officers. I didn't look into this, but I should have. They likely lost a lot of officers during all the Summer of Love and all that stuff in 2020, because there were a lot of cities, and this isn't a city that I typically follow, but there were a lot of cities that lost a lot of officers because of all the shenanigans and stuff that were going on in 2020. This is one of these cities that I don't know. Well, Tacoma, it's far enough inland. I wonder how much snow they get here. This is one of the things I don't like about cities, are these huge hills. Like, I could never live in San Francisco because of the hills, and just having to park on hills, or if you get snow in the wintertime, having to we'll go up one more block, having to drive on these kind of hills, because you try to clear snow off of this, it's going to get icy. There's no way you're going to keep it from getting icy. I mean, you could chuck a lot of salt on it, but if they get snow here, which I don't know if they do, I don't think Seattle does, and this is kind of in the same general area. Maybe they get it sometimes. I don't know if they get it. Maybe they don't. And then the big hills wouldn't bother you, but there's a lot of cities that there's no way I could live in because of those big hills. Okay, so the cost of living here, 28% higher than the national average, so it's expensive. It's 8% higher than the Washington average. Housing is 58% higher than the national average. 58% higher. I don't know how people are even buying houses here. There's sales tax, 27% higher. If you lived here and were making a big purchase, it would benefit you to just drive to down to Portland or Oregon somewhere and buy it there because they have zero sales tax. Here the sales tax is 27% higher than the national average. 54% home ownership rate, which is actually pretty good. It's 16% lower than the national average, but anything that goes over 50%, I consider the city's doing pretty good, especially with if the housing is really 58% higher than the national average. To have a 54% home ownership rate, that's pretty good. Then you got the schools. 48% of the kids graduate proficient at reading and math. The Washington average is 54%, which is really good. Anything above 50% is actually good, believe it or not. The national average, or U.S. average, is 48% of the kids graduating. So Tacoma is right on par with the U.S. average, graduating at a 12th grade level for reading and math. 48%, less than half. State of Washington, 54%, they're doing okay. 83.8% of the people that live here have completed the 8th grade, and only 83%